Hello everybody, welcome back to Nerf This Patch. It's been a very eventful week and, one of the first weeks that my Bengals didn't lose. I mean, they also didn't win, but, it's, we got a lot to cover today, and I'm really excited for the game that we're going to play at the end of our video, but I definitely wanted to start with this today. Hype's a great thing. There are so many games that I'm looking back on my shelf that I've gotten so excited for obsessively. Kingdom Hearts is the big one that comes to mind, and then there are other games, Last of Us 2, some games like Final Fantasy VII Remake I didn't have a lot of hype for, and I regret it because, that game blew my expectations away. But I feel like there are a lot of games that we put too much hype in and we don't really have a good reason. And, I'm thinking back to when I used to work at GameStop, and there were some games that a lot of people just got so excited for, and I never understood why. One of the big ones for me, looking back, I remember a lot of people going crazy over Dead Island. And, the game got meh reviews. There were a lot of people who were just going crazy over it. And I'm like, what is going on with this game? I remember we sold out of it for a while. And then the hype just kept building. We were sold out for so long. And I looked at the developer, and the developer was no one special. And, I never understood why that game got the build-up that it did. Cyberpunk is the thumbnail here, and I'm not trying to say that Cyberpunk's going to be a bad game. I think Cyberpunk's going to be a fine game. My concern is that I think people are hyping this game up far too much. I think that a lot of the people who talk about that this is their most anticipated game of the year don't really know why. Now, if you've seen the gameplay, the world looks great. Visually, it looks stunning. And if you're a PC player, you can't wait to put this game through the ringer and just see what you can output. But most people that I know who are really excited for this game didn't play Witcher 3, which is kind of a shock. Or number 2, didn't like Witcher 3. And then my hardcore friends who are hardcore PC gamers and they want to ring and they've played Witcher. I'm talking about most people I've seen that walked into stores, most of my friends who aren't the biggest gamers, and they just see this and think that it's going to be the best game ever, that it's going to be game of the year, and that it's going to be better than Last of Us and better than Doom Eternal. And I'm like, what are you basing this on? If you didn't like Witcher 3, you're probably not going to like this game. For me personally, I think the game's going to be just fine. I think it's going to be a solid 8.5, 9 at best. At best. Now, I hope I'm wrong, but that comes from this statement alone. CD Projekt Red has only made one great game. They have made a very bland Witcher 1 game, a very interesting but a little difficult to get into Witcher 2, and they've made the excellent Witcher 3, and that's it. They've made one franchise to keep them relevant. So all of this hype, this Cyberpunk's gonna be the best game ever, people need to calm down. It's all this the Keanu Reeves hype behind it, this whole internet thing where Keanu Reeves makes everything better and it's gonna make this game immaculate. That doesn't make a game good. It frustrates me because I feel like we're hyping this game up too much. And if the game is just an 8.5 or 9, or if it's just great, it's not going to be good enough because it wasn't the best game ever. And too much hype does change everything. You need to simmer your expectations with a game that, from a developer who's only put out one great game. Is it going to look great? Yes. Is it going to be good? Probably. I trust the developer enough to make a good game. I don't trust them to make a masterpiece. I trust Naughty Dog to make a masterpiece. I trust Nintendo to make a masterpiece. Why? Because they've shown that they can do it. They've done it before. And CD Projekt Red has done it one time. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't be excited for Cyberpunk. I'm telling you to simmer your expectations and understand why you should be excited for it. And it's not because it's Cyberpunk, techie, whatever. You should be excited for it because the game looks promising, period. But that's it. That's it. If this is your most anticipated game of the year, I understand that. But I'm just a little confused when I see all my friends freak out about this game and none of them played Witcher or even liked Witcher. I never even beat Witcher. So that's why, I'm not going off on this game or whatever. You gotta do your homework about this stuff. It drives me insane to kind of just sit here and watch people make this game already better than The Last of Us Part 2, and they don't know anything about it. The one thing that is concerning with me in this game, I think the gameplay looks kind of okay. It doesn't look like anything special. I think the world looks special. But, people need to slow down. Too much hype can ruin a game, and I feel like we're hyping up Cyberpunk for all the wrong reasons. This game will probably be the biggest game of the holiday season on default. There's not much else coming out this holiday season to really compete. and we're probably going to think it's better than it actually is. And for me, I think this game's going to be a solid 8.5, 9. I don't think this is going to be Game of the Year. It'll be nominated probably, but I don't think it would hold a candle to The Last of Us, or I don't think it would hold a candle to Doom Eternal. Honestly, I don't like Final Fantasy VII looks better than this. I just maybe I'm in the minority here. Maybe I'm being too hard on this game because I'm not the biggest Witcher 3 fan, and the setting looks interesting enough, but I'm just tired of seeing everybody freak out about that this is going to be the best game ever, and they have no reason to believe that. It's all the hype, and it's ruining this game for me, and it could ruin the game moving forward. We'll see. I hope the game's great. I don't want any game to fail. I think it will be a great game. It's not going to be Game of the Year, and I hope I'm wrong, but from what I've seen, I can't imagine that this is going to be better than Last of Us Part 2. All right, let's get to the news. Sorry, I drank a lot of milk before I started this. Okay, so Among Us is one of the most popular games out right now. It's taken over Steam, and it's a lot of fun if you haven't played it. I highly recommend checking it out. And, questions about Among Us 2 started floating around, and they got shut down by the developer, that the game would not have a sequel in development. They would add everything to Among Us 1. Speaking from the developer, he quoted, "All of the content we had planned for Among Us 2 will instead go into Among Us 1. This is probably the more difficult choice, but it means we're going deeper into the core code of the game and reworking several parts of it. We have lots of things planned, and we're excited to bring new content to everyone as you continue to enjoy playing." I mean, me personally, as long as it's free and you keep updating the game, this game has nowhere to go but up. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to add a sequel. I don't even think Overcooked needs a sequel. I know this is a weird comparison, but like when Overcooked got a sequel, I was kind of like, well, why do we need this? You can just add this as DLC, and I'd be happy with that. This is one of those games that you just need to play with friends. Like, if you get a chance to, please check it out. You will not regret it. It's so much fun. Alright, next, Resident Evil is getting not only its live-action series announced earlier in the year, but it's getting a separate CG series to Netflix. It's a new animated series that will focus on Claire and Leon and make the guys who made the CG movies previously. This will go alongside the live-action show, and first impressions, those CG movies are pretty badass. Leon and Claire are two of my favorite characters of Resident Evil, and the hype with Resident Evil 2 being nominated for Game of the Year last year, Resident Evil 3 being moderately successful, this is a good move. I feel like a lot of people who are hardcore Resident Evil fans did not watch these movies. I mean, Degeneration, or I forget what they're called, but I think this is a good start to get people who didn't watch those movies before, or people who are just casual Resident Evil fans, to easily dive in. Leon's the person you want to put at the front. Chris Redfield's one of the most boring characters in all of Resident Evil, and Leon, for some reason, just I am attracted to that character far more. Claire Redfield, I need to, having her story fleshed out more would also be a big positive. So, I know, interesting news article here. Finally, this is a weird one. The LA Comic-Con is still happening. So the general manager of the con put out this quote: "Since March, we've been living in some version of a lockdown, safer at home world, trying hard to stay safe, hoping and praying for the health and safety of ourselves, our families, friends, neighbors, and all of our fellow human beings. We're wearing masks, we're keeping socially distant, and remaining thankful for frontline workers, hospital personnel, and everyone working hard to make a difference. And yet, we all learn for just a bit of normalcy, to reclaim some aspect of our lives pre-COVID." So it looks like they're moving forward 3 months from now to continue a cosplay anime Comic-Con. I guess not anime fully. It's Comic-Con for a reason. I don't know how I feel about this. Being a football fan and seeing fans in the stands, I think is like, it warms my heart because I love football so much. Cosplay, this is debatable. I'm not going to really say that you should or shouldn't, but if you're going to come out and say that you're going to have Comic-Con, you need to have a list of all of the precautions that you're going to have. How are you going to handle cosplays? How are you going to handle the events and the panel? Like, I don't understand. Unlike football, where you're paying for the experience that is on the field, with Comic-Con, the experience is part of meeting a bunch of people and going to panels. And if you're limiting all that, then what's the point? This is just a weird move. I'm not saying I'm against it, but this will be interesting to follow moving forward. Alrighty. So I was talking about Cyberpunk earlier, and I really want to get into the games that we have overhyped or underhyped, and I want to talk about the games that we should be hyped for. So I want to take the rest of the year. I want to play this little game called Buy, Sell, or Hold. And we're going to take games and say, should we get more hype for them? Buy. Should we sell our hype for them? Forget about them for the most part? Or should we just be a little bit more patient than we have been? So I think this will be a fun game to play. If you guys have any, games that I left out, I can maybe touch on them next week. So put some comments down below and we'll see what we can do. But anyway, let's get to it. Alright, Crash Bandicoot 4. You should definitely buy hype for this game. I know a lot of people are freaking out that it's a $60 Crash Bandicoot game, but the amount of content that they've added into this game looks unbelievable. You've got the multiplayer, you've got all the hidden secrets, you've got all the different modes. Like, we waited so long for this game that they know that they need to deliver, and it looks like all the promises that they've made with a new Crash Bandicoot are going to be fulfilled. I think this will be one of the most underrated games of the year. Maybe one of the best 3D platformers we ever see again. Because I know that's a dying genre outside of Nintendo's properties. But this game is looking like everything we've ever wanted from a sequel, and you should buy hype for this game because I think it's going to be excellent. Star Wars Squadrons. You should sell your hype on this game because number one, it's still EA. Number two, I don't trust that this game is going to be, a full-fledged Star Wars. The fact that it's it's a $40, $50 game, so it's not a full price game. They haven't shown too much of it. It's been a lot of CG, smoke and mirrors. I don't know how many modes there's going to be. I don't trust EA. Like, that's really what this comes down to. They're going to microtransaction the hell out of this. And for a game that's 100% multiplayer and the way you can customize your ships or however that's going to work out, if I didn't do my homework on this game, it would look and sound exactly like what I want from a Star Wars game, but that's never good. That's never the case with EA. So I'm going to sell my hype on this, and, I'll wait and see. All right. Baldur's Gate 3. This is an absolute buy, and I don't even care about this franchise. The guys who made Divinity are making this game. They've made some excellent games in the past. And again, like I've said about CD Projekt Red, you should always judge a developer by their past and, their consistency with delivering excellence. I don't ever have a doubt about Naughty Dog. I don't ever have a doubt about Nintendo. You shouldn't have a doubt about this developer because their track record speaks for itself. Do I care about Baldur's Gate? No. Is this probably going to be one of the highest rated games of the year? Yeah. And am I going to get interested and probably check it out then? Probably. So I think you should get more hype for this. The people who already are on Baldur's Gate are already excited for this. So if you haven't checked out this franchise yet or you haven't checked out Divinity Original Sin, check it out. I think that this will be worth it for you. Alrighty. Watch Dogs Legion, hold. This has nothing to do with what I've seen of the game because I think the game looks pretty fun. This comes down to Ubisoft. I think that they're not really sure what to do with this franchise, and this is kind of a way to salvage it. And I'm not saying the game's going to be bad. I'm not going to say the game's going to be great. But there's a lot of questions around this game, and I kind of want to hold off because, and you'll see with my next game, Ubisoft, is shown to make a competent Watch Dogs. I don't think the first Watch Dogs is as bad as people think it is. It's definitely not great, and it's not what we were promised. I think Watch Dogs 2, a lot of people didn't play, but that game's a lot of fun. If this game kind of pulls away from all the bad parts with the first two Watch Dogs, I'll be more in. But even at its best, I don't think it's going to be that great of a game. It'll be good enough. So I could be wrong about that. So I'm thinking you should hold your hype on this. And speaking of holding your hype on a Ubisoft game, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I think you should hold off on the hype. I mean, I'll say this. I was completely wrong about the last 2 or 3 Assassin's Creed games. They've been great games. I played Origins and Odyssey, and they were a lot better than I thought they were. I didn't beat them, but they were still really good games. I feel like with this game, it comes back to, the setting makes it look better than it is, and it's still Assassin's Creed, it's still Ubisoft. This is still the same company that a couple years ago said, as long as people keep buying Assassin's Creed games, we're just going to keep putting them out. So I don't have 100% trust in it. It looks good, but it also just looks like Assassin's Creed. So whether this will be, the game that everybody's expecting or if it's just going to be another Assassin's Creed game, I think we should hold off on. But that doesn't mean it's going to be bad, so I don't think you should sell your hype. But I would just wait and see on this one. So, Sackboy: A Big Adventure, you need to sell your game on this hype. The fact that Sony hasn't shown anything since their first PS5 reveal of this game makes me scared. And I'm the guy who wants this game to be excellent. Like, this was probably one of my most anticipated PS5 games. But the fact that we haven't seen anything of it since, that they're not showing gameplay demos of, let's be honest, a pretty primitive third-person platformer, 3D platformer, whatever, And the PS5, it's a launch title, and it's coming up in a couple months, and we still haven't seen any of it. Like, something tells me this game's not up to snuff. It's very bare bones. Sell your hype on this game. It's probably not going to be as good as we want it to be. Kingdom Hearts, Melody of Memory. You should buy this game if all you care about is music and video games. Because while I don't give any fucks anymore about the story, because, you know, I think Kingdom Hearts 3 was fine, but I wanted it to end, and they're not ending it. I'm not telling you to buy this game if you're a hardcore Kingdom Hearts fan. I'm telling you to buy this game because as a music rhythm game, this may be the best one they ever make. They've shown with Theaterism that they know what they're doing with rhythm games. Obviously, the hype with Persona 3, 4, and 5 dancing like carries into this new genre that they're trying to work on. I think that this is the best collection of music that any rhythm game could have outside of Zelda or Mario or Final Fantasy. So I think the game's going to be good. From what I've seen, they've added a bunch of modes. There's a bunch of multiplayer, cooperative, and competitive. The music library of this game, man, just could stand on its own. You could sell this like as a $20 select and play, and it would be worth it. So I think people are really underestimating how good this game is going to be on its own as its own game. Just ignore all the story bullshit. It's going to be a good game. You should build some hype for this. Spider-Man Miles Morales. Okay, this is going to sound weird, but I think you should hold your hype on this. I think that what they showed looked really good, and I'm not saying that this game's going to be bad by any means. It's probably going to be fine. I think it's going to be short. The fact that it's not a full-fledged game, we have no clue what kind of expansion this really is. This is just glorified DLC sold on a disc, and it's going to be a lot shorter than people think. I think that the game, you know, it's going to be like a shotgun blast of 4 hours, 5 hours maybe, with a bunch of added features that you can add content to kind of extend it. But I don't know. Something tells me that this is not going to be a long game, and it's glorified DLC that should have been on the original Spider-Man. So I think it's going to be excellent. I'm not denying that it's going to be a good game, but it's not going to be worth the money if you're paying $50 for a 4-hour DLC. That's just my opinion on it. You should hold off on your hype. That's never a good thing. You should never have this be the focal point of your launch title. This is the best game that the PS5 is going to get at launch. The fact that it's not a full $60, $70 game, you should be a little worried about that this is going to be short and it's just for Flash to sell consoles. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, you should buy this game because you know what it is. And not saying it's going to be any better or worse than the other Call of Duty games, but, you know, this holiday season is going to suck anyway, so not saying you should get like super excited for it, but you should buy a little hype because this is probably going to carry you over to, you know, what's coming next year. I think with COVID delaying a lot of these games that were going to come out on holiday, this and Cyberpunk and maybe a handful of others are really all that's left to get excited for, so you should probably get excited for it anyway. Not to mention, I think the game looks fine. Like, from what I've seen, it looks fun. You miss Zombies mode. You're going to have, you know, new competitive multiplayer modes. I mean, obviously you know what to expect with this one. So if you don't care about Call of Duty, then don't worry about this. But overall, I mean, it's fine to get hyped for this game. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Sell your hype on this game because the Dynasty Warrior games have never been good. I'm sorry. This is one of the franchises and spin-offs that I can't stand. Because it pretends to be a Zelda game. It's not a Zelda game. It's a spin-off Dynasty Warriors game with a Zelda skin, and Nintendo's trying really hard to make it this Breath of the Wild extension, and it's just not. Like, there's a reason why nobody ever talks about these games. It's because they're all the same. They're all run around and hit X over and over and over and over, and we're trying to make this one feel more special because it has Zelda and Link's face on it. No. Everybody who's getting really excited for this needs to calm down and remember that you weren't playing Hyrule Warriors before this. This is the same franchise. This is not a Zelda game. Like, you should save this hype for actual Zelda games. This is a cash-in on a franchise that has struggled for a long time to stay relevant, and using the Zelda name to push itself forward. It's going to be the most mediocre game of the year. The story may be great. It doesn't matter. Calm down on the hype on this. This is probably my least favorite game to come out all year. I'm not going to buy it. And I love Zelda's one of my favorite franchises, but all the people are like, oh my gosh, it looks so great. Like, you've been burned on this before. Don't buy it because it's just Zelda. It's another Dynasty Warriors. Just pass. Please pass. This game frustrates me. Godfall, you should sell your hype on this game too. This is another example of what we saw looked flashy enough, but there's no depth. There's no meat on this game's bones. It looks cute. It looks flashy. Sell your hype on this game. This is to get people to buy the PS5. It's a launch title. There's no reason to be excited about this. We don't know anything about it. from a depth perspective, it looks like the most, oh, you can run up and slash this thing and that's it game. I don't know. This game people need to calm down on Godfall. Actually, never mind. I don't think a lot of people are hype on Godfall. Whatever you have for this, don't worry about it. Just get rid of it. This game's going to be another game that you forget. This is going to be knack. It's going to be that game that, oh, this looks really cool, but it's not very fun. So, Godfall, forget about it. Finally, Cyberpunk 2077. I know I just talked about how you shouldn't get that hype for this game. I still think you should have some expectations of an excellent game from them. I don't think it's going to be a masterpiece. It's not going to be Game of the Year. It's not going to be this revolutionary, change-everything game. Keanu Reeves does not make a game good. With that said, CD Projekt Red, with their experience, Witcher 3 being the last game that they made is enough to buy a little bit of hype on this game. I'm going to get it. It's not that I want this game to be bad or I think it's going to be horrible. I think just the expectations of it to be the best game of the generation need to be simmered. I still think that this is going to be the best game of the holiday season. You should still buy it. You should still pick it up. Just simmer and just calm down a little bit about it. But get excited. It's going to be fine. All right, thank you guys so much for joining. Next week, I think I want to play this game of the most overhyped and underhyped games ever, since, hype's been a focal point of our topic today, and, kind of dive into games that I just had no hype for at all, that just blew me away without any warning. So I think that could be fun for next week. Anyway, thank you guys again for listening. I always appreciate your time, and keep on gaming.